Hello and welcome to the story behind the story. Today I'm joined by Jenn Fredericks. Welcome, Jen.
Hi,
So I'm going to have you just introduce yourself and tell everyone what it is you do.
great. Jenn Fredericks. I'm a personal resilience practitioner and a prosilience coach or proactive resilience coach. And my focus, because of my lived experience, is to really support family or unpaid caregivers and also patients with chronic illness to prevent and repair burnout during this long marathon. And we do that by building our prosilience.
Wow. Okay. So obviously I know your story, and so do you want to talk just a little bit about a little bit of your story and why that really lends into what you do?
Sure. It's one of those my pain and my passion became my purpose.
Hmm.
So I've been managing a chronic illness. I'm a kidney patient, a kidney transplant patient for the past 3 decades. I had my first transplant at 16 and my second one in 2012, and it's going brilliantly. I'm very grateful and blessed. And had been in marketing my whole career until I was politely asked to leave during a layoff. And it came at the exact perfect time because my daughter had just been about a year earlier diagnosed with her chronic illness. And she needed me at home.
Yeah.
And I needed to be at home with her because I wasn't quite sure how to help her with all of the big feelings that come after such a diagnosis. I was comfortable in the hospital, but when it came to supporting her and processing everything that she was going through, I wasn't exactly sure how to do that. And I started to lose myself. I started to lose my confidence. I started to develop more anxiety. I actually would have physical manifestation of anxiety every time I'd eat. So it was like everything coalesced at the perfect time. And I met with an old coworker right after my layoff and said, "Hey, I hear you're doing this personal and professional development coaching thing." And I had never had a coaching session before. But one coffee meeting later, I was signed up for certification. Within 3 months, I was preparing for my new career. But in actuality, I was healing myself. And now I'm able to do what they say. I can share from the scar and not from the wound, even though I am still helping myself and my daughter through our chronic illnesses. And I loved being a general coach for 7 years. I did that. And then last January, I decided it was time. January 2024, it was time to step out on my own. It was time to focus on what I know, how I was trained by my lived experience, and bring that support to those who are looking to find a different way to live with chronic illness.
Yeah. And I imagine there were things probably that people said to you, whether you're going through your own experience with your kidney transplants and your daughter's experience, that probably did not resonate with you. So I
Yes.
imagine there were things that you're like, "Oh gosh, if I was to help somebody, I would do that so differently. I would say this so differently to somebody else." You
Yes,
know, I
and,
mean,
I always try to operate from the place of, everything comes from a place of love and care,
yeah.
and it still doesn't resonate with me. So, like, a lot of people will say to caregivers, like, "Oh, be sure to take care of yourself. Be sure." I'm like, "What does that mean? What does that look like? How do I have time to do that?" And as I was researching more and more, because the other thing people said to me all the time is like, "You're so resilient. How are you so resilient?
Ooh,
Your daughter just got out of the hospital 2 weeks ago, and here you are at school pickup in the parking lot, like, laughing and smiling." I'm like, "Well, one, it's the choice I make
right.
because that's how I wanna experience life. Why are we working so hard to heal ourselves and our loved ones if we're not going to enjoy life?" So I
Yeah.
started looking into resilience and compassion fatigue and compassion resilience, and I ran across this framework by an industrial and organizational psychologist called prosilience or proactive resilience. I read the book, and it was like this woman had been following me for 30 years. I didn't know how I was resilient. And then I read this book, and she had put language and a framework to what I was innately doing. And so now I have the words, now I have the way. And then I blend that with my lived experience, knowledge, being where the caregivers are, or, I have been where the caregivers are. And then also my great love for connecting with people. And so I'm able to support them from that place. And so now when people say, be sure to take care of yourself, I have some concrete tools to share with people. These are different ways. Does this resonate with you? It doesn't feel right. Okay, let's find your way in it. But at least we have this scaffolding that we can start with, and then really customize it to your experience and what you need and what you're looking for.
I love that because it's not a one size fits all. The
Never.
healing process, the journey, none of it's a one size fits all. So I love that it's very like, here's how I think I can help you. And it can be your way, and let's figure out what that way is,
Yeah.
which kind of leads into even like your when story, right? You had your title is the question,
Mm-hmm.
and from your talk. And so if anyone who's watching hasn't watched Jenn's when story yet, go to YouTube on the when stories YouTube channel and check out Jenn Fredericks talk. Her title is the question,
Mm-hmm.
which again, you're not telling people what the question is they have to ask themselves. You're asking them to discover it for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and what do they need. So let's talk a little bit about that. So when stories, obviously I launched at the Warrior Unchained event, and you were one of the first group that went in. So tell me a little bit about even the process. Like, why did you decide to even join and enroll in when stories?
Sure. Well, I have a theater background, so I'm comfortable on stage, but I hadn't done anything with it for a while. Through my coaching, the past 7 years, I did a lot of workshop facilitation. I did some presentations, a couple keynotes, and I really wanted a chance to explore what my signature talk might be,
Yeah.
how it lends to my passion in supporting caregivers and patients. I wanted to be able to prove to myself that I was confident enough to go stand up on a stage and command it and share a story that was very personal and be able to get some teachable moments across as well. And so the process of when stories was, it actually came at the exact right time. I had been saving this personal story for a long time. I may have alluded to it a couple of other times, but I hadn't really shared it fully. And it seemed like the perfect time to really get into my storytelling and share with others what I had learned through those difficult times with my daughter's diagnosis, and then also share some hope with others. And yes, I ended up on a stage, and I believe I was able to command it. I feel very confident in doing it. I love delivering the speech, the talk, but more than that, it was the coaching beforehand and being able to connect with the wonderful group of speakers and hear what they're doing and what they're sharing and how they're doing it, because it really can. Someone just said alignment. Yeah, it really can
Yeah.
align you with your own purpose and story too. And I loved that. It was such a wonderful experience, one that I don't think I'll ever forget. And this is coming from someone who just like also happened to have a book, a different anthology that I was part of. It was launched in Times Square, and it was great, but it wasn't the same as being able to share my story on a stage and be surrounded by this group of really supportive, wonderful people who are doing their own amazing things in the world.
It's so interesting because when I built When Stories, obviously it was for the stage, the book, the podcast. And of course, I coach everyone on their talk development,
Mhm.
but it was kind of like this bonus side effect that happened, and is that community that you described. And I
Yes.
saw that even from the very first coaching session that, oh, like everyone is really, really willing to go deep and connect, and the support. And I'm still seeing it even since, your event was in November of
Mhm.
24. And I'm still seeing everybody connected on social media from that event, supporting each other, you know, collaborating, you name it. So
Yeah.
It's been kind of a cool it's like a proud mama moment almost, like, look at everybody, they're all still, like, friends and hanging out and supporting one another. So I appreciate that you got a lot out of the coaching part of it, you
Oh,
know?
of course, and then having you there in the theater while we're presenting and you being the cheerleader in the front row, and it's like you hadn't ever heard the story before, even though you had, and then just having your support moving forward as well as,
Oh,
I'm working to build my speaking business or like, "Oh, I don't know," and then seeing you at different events when I do get a speaking gig and I show up, and then Wendy's there too, it's a great feeling.
ah, well, and it's funny 'cau well, you're a theater kid, right? So, like,
Yeah.
you do all the practice, right? And you're on stage and you're doing the things, but when it comes time for the actual performance and that's why it still feels different, like, I've helped everyone build their talks and I've heard it all, but, like, to sit in the audience then and see it, like, come together and see, like, it's such a feeling. Again, it is that proud mama kind of feeling,
Mhm,
watching it. Of course, I'm in the audience crying, even though I've heard all the stories, right? Because it's so different once it hits the stage and you're
mhm,
in the moment and the spotlight's on you and
mhm.
everyone just like rocked the stage that day. And
Yeah,
it's
well,
just
and
yeah,
it was so great, and I was just gonna say, and beyond that, then having the privilege of going back and being able to read my story and everyone else's story in the anthology, it's a
yeah,
completely different experience, and,
yeah,
so for those that wanna share what they've done during When Stories, you have all of these avenues to do it, whether your people are, audio learners, right? There's the podcast piece. Whether they're more visual learners, or they love to hold an actual book in their hand or their Kindle in their hand and read it that way. And I
yeah.
have to tell you, I have my mother in law is amazing and she loves to read. And I got a picture of her holding the When Stories book that she texted to me and said, "I'm hoping I can get one of the co-authors to sign this." And
Aw.
it just meant the world to me. All of the support from all of my family and friends and clients and all of the When Stories circle is just incredible.
Oh, I love that. And to your point, so each one's a little bit different in their own way. The stage, right? There's the talk you're giving on stage. But the
Mhm.
book then's a little bit different because it's edited for readability and some of the speakers add more of their story. So
Mhm.
there's going to be small surprises that they didn't hear in the actual talk. And then
Yeah.
the podcast, we have a 15-minute interview besides the talk. So each one has its own kind of specialness to it, I think,
Mhm. I agree.
So yeah. So what now for you? So, after One Stories,
Mhm.
even thinking about the process that you went through and building the talk, how does that lend in now to what you're doing and the visibility part of it?
Sure. Well, I mean, one, having the professional video of you on stage speaking is incredible. I'm actually, working on developing a speaker reel, and
Oh,
so
cool.
having that type of visibility and footage is amazing, and the quality of the audio lends itself so well to that. So, I mean, there's the technical aspects of it,
Right.
and, then there's the confidence building piece. I just flew back a couple weeks ago from doing something from California, from doing something that I never thought I would do, but I believe part of it came from me being able to share footage of me on stage speaking,
Oh,
as
wow.
well as every other thing that I was sharing on, LinkedIn is my main platform, sharing, I was asked to come and, 1, write curriculum for an online learning course, and then go to California and film it. And so
Wow.
now I'm waiting for the final product to be done probably in May or June to see where it will land and be distributed to be able to help caregivers. So I I don't think I would have had the confidence to go and do that if I hadn't have already been in front of the camera with When Stories and
Oh, wow.
know that I could, like, command information and
Yeah.
share it in a relatable way.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. I'm so excited for you for that. And
Thank you.
getting to see you speak at Her Day was amazing and, be out in the audience there too and supporting you, which is awesome.
That was so fun.
Yeah. So before we go, I just want to know what advice would you give anyone who's kind of on the fence about they've heard about When Stories, they have a story, but there's that little voice that I'm not good enough, or
Mhm.
because there's a confidence piece of sharing that very personal story on stage. What advice do you think you could give someone?
Wow. Well, I think it goes back to the title of my my one story, which it was the question, why
Yeah.
do you want to do it?
Yeah.
And the why will outweigh any of the fears that are, whispering in your ear. So really sit down with yourself and ask yourself, why are you doing it? And discern that and get on a call with Wendy because there is a very calming demeanor that she has. And she can see things in your story as you're talking to her about it and going through the coaching that allows you to really pull it all together and bring it to life in a way that you may not have thought you could or would. And so that's a special talent that she has.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, for anyone who's watching, how can if somebody wants to get in touch with you and learn more about what you do, your coaching, speaking, how can they connect with you?
Sure. Well, the best way is online, of course. Prosiliencecoach.com, PROSILIENCE.com. There's also a phone number on that website. If you just want to touch on what I do, but you're not ready for a call, just text that number and let me know the one thing that you're struggling with caregiving, and let me see if I can help you that way first.
Oh, I love that. That's such a nice personal touch. I love that.
I
Awesome.
may have learned that from someone.
Yeah, I heard that somewhere,
I
but I
heard
love
that
that you
somewhere.
added that onto your website. That's very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Jen, and thanks everyone for watching the story behind the story.